Welcome to another episode of Jay Leno's Garage. This is kind of a special episode because we're featuring one of the most, I think, exciting cars ever made. Dubonnet Hispano-Suiza. This is a one-off car, 1938. This is not my car, sadly. This belongs to Peter Mullin, who owns the Mullin Automotive Museum. Peter, how are you?
Hello, Jay.
Peter has got some of the greatest collection of French cars in the entire world, probably the greatest collection in the entire world. Tell the story behind the car.
This was conceived of and built by Andre Dubonnet. Mm-hmm. He was a fighter pilot, World War I, part of the famous Stork Squadron, was a race driver, but was a brilliant engineer. He took a Hispano H6B chassis, and then for the next 5 or 6 years, he worked on an independent four-wheel suspension system, which was way, way, way ahead of its time. Oil-filled cylinders, coil springs, each individual wheel was attached so that it unsprung the weight of the car every time it turned, which made it handle incredibly well.
Did he design this body himself?
He did not design this body. He went to Saucek.
Okay.
And they conceived of this together.
Right.
But Saucek loved airplanes, loved aeronautical designs. So together they came up with this concept, which really is very reminiscent of airplane technology.
Yeah.
You see the curved front windows here, that's right out of airplanes. This is the first curved window car ever built. The next one was by GM in the 50s.
Right.
So you think 38 to 50. I mean,
wow.
That's a spread.
Well, there are just so many little touches on this car. Even the gas cap has an arrow theme to it. Can we show how the doors open? This is pretty wild.
These doors may have been an idea whose time had not yet come.
Okay,
but,
let's see. Pull it this way, and they open like that.
Back.
Look at that. Well, that is very cool. All right. And it really doesn't take up any more space. It probably takes up less space than a normal door opening, wouldn't it?
This is the ultimate in suicide doors. You wouldn't want this coming open while you're going 100 miles an hour, I'll tell you that.
If this did open at 100 miles an hour, you wouldn't lose the door.
No, the door wouldn't flip off.
No, I mean, I've had that happen. I was driving my 8-liter Bentley, going 40, and I, like an idiot, I went, I put on the brake and I'm trying to pull the door to keep from being ripped off.
Tested your arms.
Oh, man. Let's look at the interior of the car while we have these doors open. Look at this. Beautiful seats. And I like the sort of bamboo wrapped steering wheel there. And this shuts, just slide it and then push, correct?
Yeah, just at both ends, kind of evenly.
Wow.
This window is like a gull wing window. It pops up because it's curved glass, so it obviously can't go down into the door.
Right.
This entire top right here, these pieces come off.
Oh, they do?
So this is like the first example of the quasi-convertible top.
Like a target top.
Like a target top,
Wow. You know, this is a car I have heard about and read about over the years. And you can see this car in person if you go to the Mullin Automotive Museum in Oxnard. Imagine the impact this must have had in 1938, just pulling up to anywhere. My God. I mean, it still makes an impression today. I guess it's Art Deco, isn't it?
It is Art Deco.
Yeah.
By the way, Jay, I know you're a Duesenberg Cord fan. Cord got the concept for the front end of the cords
from
this grill. Yeah.
Okay, look at that. Let's open the hood and take a look what we have. Wow. Wow, that's like a key. And it's basically a stock H6 motor, correct?
It started life as an H6B, which is a 6.5-liter engine, but the H6C, which was 200 braking horsepower instead of 140, this has been modified to resemble the performance of the H6C.
Okay.
Even though it's still a 6.5-liter block.
And is it a 3-speed or 4-speed transmission?
It's a 3-speed transmission.
3-speed transmission. And of course, one thing Hispano-Suiza always famous for, these beautiful splash panels. You know, most cars, your wheel wells would throw mud and dirt and water up into the engine compartment. And look how clean this stays, because there's no way for any outside dirt or anything to get in here. Everything is metal, it's cold to the touch, there's no plastic on this thing. Beautiful porcelain exhaust, you can't even get this kind of thing anymore. We always think of V8s in America, but in Europe the 6-cylinder was the most powerful engine. It was the smoothest engine, that's why Mark Burkett did it. Mark Burkett, he's designed the Hispano-Suiza. He's the guy that designed the power booster to allow mechanical brakes to have a vacuum so they work like a power brake. Rolls-Royce, Packard, all the mechanical brakes of the late 20s and early 30s that stopped like hydraulics because he developed that system. He was a brilliant engineer.
As well as developing the airplane engine for the Stork Squadron.
Right, the V8, the first V8 aero engine. That's like my Hispano-Suiza here, and that V8 engine was designed by Mark Burkett. He designed the apparatus that allowed the wheel to turn but also apply the brake. The reason a lot of cars didn't have brakes on the front is you turn the steering wheel and the rod would pull the brake, and that didn't work. Hispano-Suiza is because he built them in Spain. He went there to work for the railway, I believe, and then with King Alfonso he designed that car and he called it Hispano-Suiza. Suiza for Swiss, Hispano for Spain. Here's a brief visit to Peter's museum. We spent 3 hours there. We covered a lot of stuff. We didn't see everything, but here's a little taste.
Welcome to the Mullin Automotive Museum. My name is Andrew Riley. I'm the Deputy Director and Chief Curator, and I'm glad to have you here today. Within the overarching theme of the Paris Auto Salon, the Mullin Automotive Museum also tries to provide a highly contextualized image of this age in France, which is to say that we also try and talk about the art and artistry of the time. Behind me you'll see the Carlo Bugatti gallery. Carlo Bugatti was the patriarch of the Bugatti family and Ettore Bugatti's father. He was a Renaissance artist who worked in many different mediums, in silver, in furniture. He made musical instruments. He also was very interested in architecture. When one thinks about the cars that were to follow, you have to imagine that these kinds of material explorations and these new studies in geometry would influence their work. Here on the museum's mezzanine level, in our Bugatti Club, we continue our celebration of the works of the Bugatti family. A look around the room will show numerous examples of this family's work. Behind me you see the expanse of the Grand Salon below, as well as our gallery across the way, which celebrates the competition cars of the 1920s and 30s in a display intended to evoke the Le Mans pits of 1932. Next to me is one of the stars of our collection, the 1930 Bugatti Type 43A Roadster, a Grand Prix Bugatti in road trim. Of the 170 or so Type 43 Bugattis constructed, only 17 were built to the A specification, indicating that they were built for the American market. This was a diminutive car, certainly next to a Packard or a Cadillac in that time, but very, very sporting. In front of me here is one of the only non-French automobiles here at the Mullin Automotive Museum, the 1927 Cooper Miller Indianapolis racing car. One might reasonably ask, why include this car here at the Mullin Museum? This car has the unique distinction of having raced the Indianapolis 500 more than any single car, 19 times. Ettore Bugatti was so interested in these vehicles that he arranged to trade 3 Type 43s, new cars, in exchange for these 2 Miller front-drive cars. Even in the rarefied environment of the coach-built era, there were factory-built cars and there were one-off custom-built cars. What you see in front of you is a 1938 Bugatti Type 57C RVs. Distinct from the factory-built cars, this was a car that excelled in its detail. A car like this in 1938 probably would have cost somewhere about $18,000. The average new home in 1938 was only $3,800. This was not a car intended merely for transportation, but it was rolling art. So this is the 1938 Talbot Lago T150 CSS, or the Goutte d'eau as the press called it, which meant teardrop in French. Only 14 of these cars were produced. 9 or so are known to exist today. If you look at the shape of the fenders, you'll see why it was given the name teardrop. It was this use of pure form in the front and rear fenders, also in the side glass. This was not a time in which cars were being developed in wind tunnels, even though incidentally this has an incredibly low drag coefficient. These were competition cars, sports racing cars really, and cars the affluent would take on trips from Paris to the seaside. It's also worthy to note that this car has a Hemi. It's a 4-liter power plant that made this car incredibly fast on the race course. When visiting the Mullin Automotive Museum, you'll see that this was an exciting era of exploration, both in terms of art and the automobile. I hope that you will also consider purchasing The Art of Bugatti, recently published by our museum and available on our website. And please, I hope that you'll come and visit us here at the Mullin Automotive Museum.
This is The Art of the Bugatti. And it's just a beautifully bound book. And here, of course, is a very famous Bugatti. This is at his museum. You may have heard about this. This is the famous Bugatti in the lake. Tell people this story.
This Bugatti, which is a 22 Brescia, owned by Rene Dreyfus originally. He lost the car in a poker game in Paris, they say, after 2 magnums of champagne. And the Swiss gambler that won it, Bon Vivant, tried to take it back to Switzerland. Of course, like most gamblers, you know, his pocket is either full of money or it has no money. So by the time he got to the Swiss border, he had no money. And so they said, you can't bring this in without paying customs duties. He said, I don't have the money. They said, we're impounding the car. You pay for it within a week. He couldn't do that. So under Swiss law, believe it or not, if a car was impounded for customs duty, they had to destroy it. So what they did was shove this car into Lago Maggiore, in the border of Switzerland and Italy. But shrewdly enough, they said, So they hung it on a 35-foot chain and sent it down into the lake, but on a chain, thinking that the heat would blow over and these customs guys would pull the chain back up, they'd have a free Bugatti. Unfortunately, they used a rusty chain, so, so the chain broke from the weight and the car fell to 173 feet, bottom of the lake. And there was no technology that could go down 173 feet and rescue this car. So it lay there for 75 years. Was brought back up in 2009 by the Ascona Diving Club.
And it was one of those things that had always been a rumor, because I'd heard about, oh, there's some Bugatti in the lake. Oh, no, there's not. It's ridiculous.
Right.
And some.
Oh, it's like a fable.
Yeah, yeah. And then it turned out to be actually true. Pretty neat. Well, you can see that car at his museum as well. And I love the fact that you haven't, it's exactly as it looked as it came out of the lake. They haven't done anything to it.
People talked about, Peter, you're going to restore that, but frankly, I think Bugatti, the genius designer, created this, but Mother Nature turned it from car to art after 75 years at the bottom of a lake. And so this is art now, so I'm not touching it. It's like finding a Greek statue in the bottom of the ocean.
You want patina. You're not going to get any more patina than that. That's the most patina-ized car I have ever seen. Now, you can get this book off your website?
Yes.
It's mullinautomotivemuseum.com. Beautiful, beautiful book. Very, very nice. Well, let's see what else we can see here. Look at these exhaust tips. Look, that's what I was talking about. I mean, every millimeter of this car is beautifully styled. Look at that. Oh, that's fantastic. And how Batmobile-y is that?
I mean, it seems to me that this is either Hispano-Suiza Xenia one-off car, or it's a 2012 concept car.
Yeah, it's true. Look at that.
Because there's nothing in between that even comes close.
And of course, these fender skirts right here, look at these, beautiful. I imagine you turn these, unscrew them to get them up.
And it pops
again,
off.
even those have an aerodynamic theme to them. And there's, of course, the Saucek
Body badge. Saucek was famous for putting a lot of chrome on cars.
Yeah.
So the fact that this has essentially no chrome strips really shows the impact that Dubonnet had on the design.
And you have small lights here, and these open up to take this.
These open up, this whole top lifts off, and then there's luggage that's made to fit. You have to only pack pants that have tapered legs here, as you can see. Otherwise, they don't fit in.
Yeah. You're not going to get luggage any more fitted than that. Really, one of the most beautiful automobiles I've ever seen.
It actually was lost during the war. Nobody knew where it went. Reappeared in '46.
Yeah.
That's why many people have said it was a 1946 car, because they'd never even seen it before the war.
Now, was it hidden during the war from the Germans?
It was hidden from the Germans, and then they brought it back out when they opened the St. Cloud Tunnel after the war. They had a parade of cars go through the tunnel into Paris, and this was the car that led.
Wow. Just a real piece of history. What an exciting automobile. Well, Peter, I can't thank you enough for bringing it by.
Wow.
It's really a treat, and if you get a chance, go to the go to the Mullin Automotive Museum in Oxnard, California. You saw the little bit we did on it. I think you'll be very, very impressed. Peter, thank you so much. What an honor.
Oh, it's an honor to be here,
cool.
Jay.
Very cool.
You want to drive it?
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Peter, tell us a story about why it's called Xenia.
Dubonnet's first wife was named Xenia, Xenia, and she died when she was about 27 after they'd been married 2 years. And so when he finally designed and built this car, he was remarried, and he named this after his first wife in remembrance of her beauty.
Yeah.
And the second wife said, "Not on your life, big boy." So she said, "Get rid of that car. Get rid of that car. I don't want any remembrance of your first wife." So he parked it a couple of miles away from where he lived in a garage and told her he'd sold it, and he left it there for about 4 years.
So let's be listening. Never name a car after your first wife. Like Peter said, it does look like it could be a concept vehicle from just a few years ago. Got a panoramic view, and that Hispano motor is one of the great engines of all time. Look at this thing as we go past a normal car. It just looks so fantastic. Wow, what an exciting car to drive. Pretty amazing. I can't describe it. This is a car I've read about and seen pictures of since I was a kid, and just to have it here in my garage is such a thrill. Peter, thank you again so much.
You bet, Jay.
I keep
Pleasure
thanking
being
Peter,
here.
but I can't thank him enough. We'll see you guys next week.